March 2015. El Chapo, a notorious drug lord, agreed to a secret interview that surprised the world. What he revealed that day would challenge everything we thought about crime and power. But soon, an unexpected twist in the interview left the whole world shocked. Here are 8 times Cartel Sicarios and members flipped out at disrespectful interviewers.
Feel remorse?
No,
not at all. Once we capture them, we can't feel anything. Remorse comes later, when the job is over.
He sat across from the interviewer, legs crossed, a huge .50 caliber handgun resting in his lap, pointing straight at the camera crew. The room was hot, the tension even hotter. They called him George, but in Culiacan, everyone knew him as Diablillo, the little devil. George wasn't the typical cartel hitman the media paraded for show. Short, chubby, he almost looked like a mischievous kid. But his nickname suited him. For more than a decade, he'd been the devil's errand boy, leaving a trail of bodies across Mexico. Born in the legendary cartel cradle of Badiraguato, George's childhood home had more drugs than food. Killing, he claimed, ran in his blood. By 15, he was already a working sicario, one of Mexico's youngest professional killers. His job? Protect the boss, collect debts, and eliminate problems.
George, how many people have you killed?
I don't know. I don't keep track.
Approximately?
I don't know, maybe 80, 90, 100?
That's when the realization hit. This wasn't an ordinary interview. The weapon in his lap wasn't for show. Money bought men like George loyalty. But it wasn't just about cash. Power, expensive cars, attention from women. These were the real rewards. He'd do anything to maintain his place in the criminal hierarchy. That included killing friends and even family who disrespected his boss.
I killed friends, even family members, because they disrespected my boss, and orders are orders.
In his world, family ties meant nothing compared to cartel loyalty. George commanded 18 men, including 2 12-year-olds already seasoned killers.
I have 18 people under my command and 2 12-year-olds who love weapons.
And they killed too?
Of course.
How many people have they killed?
One of them has killed 3 people and the other one killed.
These kids didn't stand a chance. They were raised in poverty, with few options besides joining the drug trade. But George, he claimed to have $1.5 million stashed across various locations. For him, it wasn't about survival. It was about power. Torture was his specialty. He described his methods with chilling detachment, hoses, electric shocks, pulling nails and teeth. The more people screamed, the more adrenaline he felt. To him, torture was a stress reliever. But what really changed the tone of the interview was when he was asked about remorse. George's answer was ice cold. He flipped.
Feel remorse?
No.
No, not at all. Once we capture them, we can't feel anything. Remorse comes later, when the job is over.
So the cycle never ended. What kept George going wasn't fear, but adrenaline. He thrived on danger and excitement, expensive cars, stacks of cash, and the attention of women. These were his rewards. With each violent act, he climbed higher in the criminal world. But this wasn't a life of luxury. George moved constantly, sleeping just a few hours a night. Enemies surrounded him. He lived day by day, knowing any moment could be his last. Despite his bravado, the reality of cartel life was clear. There would be no peaceful retirement. This was the life he chose.
I don't know, the adrenaline? I like the emotion, the danger. I get an adrenaline high. I like it. I really like it. I like good cars. I like to carry money around, and I feel the power.
George described exactly what kept him in this violent world. As the camera rolled, the interviewer realized the true danger in the room. This wasn't just a confession. It was a warning. And with that, the interview ended. The team packed up, every member aware they just stared into the abyss and barely escaped its grip. But George's interview wasn't half as shocking as the next Sicario on this list. The world knew him as Popeye. But behind those eyes lived the cold calculation of Pablo Escobar's deadliest lieutenant. When Adela Misha, Mexico's top celebrity interviewer, sat down with him in 2015, she found herself face to face with a man who claimed responsibility for over 250 murders and complicity in thousands more. From the very start, Popeye cuts through any pretense. "John Jairo Velasquez Vasquez. You can call me Popeye," he says calmly, as if introducing himself at a business meeting rather than as a confessed mass murderer. He hands Misha a signed copy of his book, a chilling contrast between his life as a cartel hitman and his current status as an author.
Aquí le traje el librito de autografía para
Qué
usted, con mucho
amable.
respeto.
Entonces dejamos esto por
Sí.
aquí. Muy bien, muchas gracias. Mi libro y mi historia para la señora de la Micha. ¿Y qué historia?
Muy amable.
Home, she wastes no time getting to the core.
Este libro es Sobreviviendo a Pablo Escobar. Este lo escribió en la cárcel.
Sí, lo escribí en la cárcel, sí.
¿Cuándo?
The casual tone is unsettling. What follows is not the story of a remorseful man seeking redemption. Popeye lays out his criminal resume with almost clinical detachment. By age 17, he had committed his first murder. A bus dispatcher, killed over a dispute.
Not at all. It was then that I realized I had a stomach for crime.
He says, unblinking. His ascent through the Medellin cartel was rapid and merciless.
Muy bueno para matar, entonces Pablo Escobar, llegué al lado de él y éramos asesinos profesionales. Y trabajábamos de frente.
The numbers are staggering.
With my own two hands, I've killed around 250 people. And how many have I been complicit in? About 3,000.
He claimed. When pressed about how he sleeps at night, Popeye's reply is chilling. I turn off the light, get under the covers, put my head on the pillow, and fall asleep, because I killed professionally. The interview takes a deeply personal turn when Popeye discusses Wendy Chavarriaga Gill, the love of his life, whom he killed on Escobar's orders.
El de mi vida pues fue Wendy Chavarriaga Gil,
A quien usted mata.
a quien yo mato, sí. Es que esa es la guerra, y yo soy un hombre de Pablo Escobar.
The admission lands like a thunderclap, leaving Misha momentarily speechless. Throughout the conversation, Popeye maintains a veneer of brutal honesty.
You know, I'm a sincere guy. I say it how it is, and I call things by their name. You know, nobody wants you to talk like that, but I talk like that,
He declares. Yet this sincerity is deeply unsettling, more an absence of shame than true remorse. When discussing Escobar's death, Popeye reveals a complex mix of loyalty and clarity. He dismisses the suicide theory, stating,
If Pablo had wanted to himself, he wouldn't have gone out on that roof. He'd have killed himself on the first floor. They killed the boss. They executed him right there.
He frames the cartel's war against the Colombian state as a political struggle.
The ideology there? Stopping the extradition of Colombians to the United States of North America? That's an ideology,
He said. Yet moments later, he exposes the psychological core.
Nos motivaba servirle a Pablo Escobar, porque más que el dinero que él nos daba, cuando él le daba una palmada en la espalda, un abrazo por un operativo bien fuerte y mirarlo sonreír, eso era un espectáculo. El dinero sobraba.
Misha's probing often hits moral dead ends. The interview reaches its dramatic peak when Misha challenges Popeye's self-identification.
That's what you are then, a gangster and a crook, she says. Popeye flipped. His response is immediate and unapologetic.
Eso,
Es
Era muy
duro, pero es
bueno
la
para
verdad.
matar.
Usted en esta entrevista conmigo siempre le va a decir la verdad. Y las cosas hay que llamarlas por su nombre.
This is the moment the interview turns. Not with anger, but with Popeye's cold embrace of his own monstrous legacy, completely shocking his interviewer. Yet, even in this confession, there's no remorse, only a calculated acceptance of his past. Popeye claims to be re-socialized after 23 years in prison, but his unemotional recounting of violence leaves little room for redemption. The interview closes not with closure, but with the chilling realization that some men can commit monstrous acts and still look the world in the eye, unflinching. But if you think Popeye's case was shocking, wait until you see what happened with the next Sicario on the list.
December 15th, 2022. Mexico City's bustling streets turned into a battlefield for one of the nation's most prominent journalists. The man behind the wheel, Ciro Gomez Leiva, never expected that night would end with gunshots ripping through his armored SUV. Bart is not your typical cartel member. He's a self-described nobleman who kills, blending contradictory traits of loyalty and lethal profession. If you met him on the street, his calm demeanor might fool you, but his eyes reveal years of violence and survival. His journey into the criminal underworld didn't begin with greed or ambition. It started with drugs, then escalated into contract killing, at first under threat. He recalls his first kill.
They told me, if you don't do it, we'll kill you and your father.
That was all it took to push him over the edge. What separates Bart from other sicarios is his code. No women, no children, and he prefers to work alone rather than with cartels. But his biggest regret? Failing his last job. He sees it not as a moral failing, but as a professional one. Gomez Leiva survived the attack because his vehicle was bulletproof. For Bart, that was an embarrassment, a stain on his record. His approach to violence is disturbingly methodical. He refers to his victims as patients and keeps count of his confirmed kills. When asked how many people he's killed, he answers,
Más de 20. Más de 20. Porque es que luego también hay unos que disparan.
Each kill is meticulously tracked, like a grim ledger of death. But beneath the surface, there's complexity. He speaks about his family, his father, who only learned of Bart's profession after his arrest, and a child he's unsure is his. He shares a rare moment of vulnerability when discussing contracting HIV, urging viewers to always use protection. The interview takes a dark turn when Bart describes the ease with which young people are drawn into violence today.
Kids will kill for 3,000 pesos or the promise of a motorcycle,
he says. The desperation and poverty fueling this cycle of violence are obvious. Bart's professional detachment is chilling. When asked about targeting Gomez Leiva, he shows no remorse, only frustration at failing. He distances himself from his victims' personal lives, refusing to acknowledge the impact on their families. Yet, there's a twisted sense of honor in the way he discusses his work. And when he was asked about it, he flipped. He claims not to be inherently violent, only retaliatory.
If you look for trouble, you'll find it,
he says. His justification is always survival or financial necessity. When the interviewer presses about his life choices, Bart expresses confusion.
I come from a good family. I never lacked anything,
he says, unable to pinpoint where things went wrong. His path seems inevitable, a product of circumstances, choices, and a broken system. But the most shocking moment comes later. When asked about the power dynamics between the government and cartels, Bart's response is startlingly candid.
The government holds more power than the cartels,
he states, contradicting common perceptions and revealing the complex reality of Mexico's criminal landscape. His final words in the interview are haunting. When asked if he would change his path, he hesitates.
I don't know. That's a difficult question. I don't know what to answer,
he admits. For a man who's always in control, this moment of uncertainty is revealing. But if you think Bart's interview was disturbing, wait until you hear the next cartel member's response to a seemingly innocent question about loyalty. The tension only escalates from here. It's early 2023. CNN international correspondent Isabel Young sits across from an anonymous Sinaloa cartel member in a hidden location. The air is thick with tension. This rare interview comes after weeks of negotiations and brings viewers face to face with one of the world's most dangerous criminal organizations. The man facing Young is no kingpin, but he's deeply embedded in the cartel's operations. His identity is heavily obscured, but his voice carries the weight of someone who's seen too much. He produces fentanyl for the Sinaloa cartel, a deadly business that's devastated communities on both sides of the border. Securing this interview wasn't easy. The CNN team navigated dangerous territory, constantly aware of the risks. Every moment in this area could be their last.
This man is talking to us on the condition we hide his identity and location.
Can I pull up a chair?
He says he produces fentanyl for the Sinaloa cartel.
But the insights gained here are invaluable, offering a rare glimpse into the cartel's inner workings. He doesn't flinch when stating his role. This isn't just business, it's survival. Every decision, every action is about staying alive in a world where loyalty and betrayal are measured in blood. Danger is constant here.
En estos momentos todas las áreas son peligrosas.
I mean, according to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación.
There's no safe haven, no time to relax. Every day is a new risk, a new calculation. The cartel's reach extends everywhere, and everyone pays the price, innocent or not. This isn't about ideology or power, it's about survival. The cartel members' justification is simple but tragic. In a land with few opportunities, the drug trade becomes a lifeline for many. The cost is high, but the alternative is starvation. But the key moment Isabel probably didn't see coming was when he shifted blame to consumer demand in the U.S. He was not having it anymore.
Pero el detalle que ya están los consumidores, ¿no? Si no hubiera consumidores, pues uno le parara.
He points to the other side of the border. Without American demand, he says, the trade would stop. It's a complex web of supply and demand, with innocent lives caught in the middle. The responsibility is shared, but the consequences are borne locally. When asked about the daily violence, his response is telling. There's a pause, a moment of reflection. The weight of his actions is clear, even if he tries to justify them. This isn't a heartless killer, but a man trapped by circumstances and choices. He later admitted remorse. That admission of remorse is rare. It doesn't excuse his actions, but it shows the burden carried by those caught in this brutal world. The final words are unfinished. Things are sad, but leaving a haunting silence that speaks volumes. This interview culminates in a moment that leaves even the experienced correspondent speechless. The cartel member, usually composed and guarded, lets his mask slip. The weight of his decisions, the violence he's witnessed, and the lives affected by his actions come crashing down in a single raw moment of honesty. It's not anger or bravado that breaks through, but genuine human tragedy. A reminder that behind every statistic, there's a person forever changed by this deadly game. But if you think this was intense, wait until you see what happened when a celebrity interviewer went against one of the most dangerous cartel figures in history. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman sits with Sean Penn in a remote mountain hideout, his eyes fixed on the camera. This is the man who built a criminal empire larger than Pablo Escobar's, now facing questions no one dared ask before. The world's most notorious drug lord is about to show a side most have never seen. El Chapo grew up in the poverty-stricken hills of Badiraguato, Sinaloa. By 6, he was already working the fields. By 9, he learned crime was the only way out. His climb from poor farmer's son to cartel kingpin is legendary. But today, he's just trying to control the narrative. He describes his childhood with a calm detachment.
De tener para comprar la comida, para sobrevivir, es sembrar amapola, marihuana.
But beneath the calm, there's tension. Every word is measured, every gesture controlled. He's not just answering questions, he's managing his image. When pressed about the damage caused by his empire, El Chapo maintains his composure. He claims drug trafficking is a global culture, not a criminal enterprise.
Bueno, pues el narcotráfico ya es una cultura que viene de los antepasados y no nomás en México, esto es a nivel mundial.
It's always someone else's fault, always someone else's responsibility. But then the interviewer pushes harder, questioning his role in global addiction. The calm facade starts to crack. He flipped. His response is curt, almost offensive.
No, eso es falso, porque el día que yo no exista, no va a mermar lo que es nada. el tráfico de droga.
For a moment, his tone sharpens, a subtle glimpse of the ruthless cartel boss. Beneath the surface, he insists he's not violent, claiming he only acts in self-defense, but his words ring hollow against decades of bloody cartel warfare.
Pues yo lo que hago es defenderme nada más, pero que yo ande buscando problemas, jamás.
When asked about being called El Chapo, he shrugs off the nickname like it's just another label, yet his eyes narrow slightly, a tiny break in the mask. The interview turns personal. Questions about his family bring a rare flash of genuine emotion. He dreams of living peacefully with them, away from the constant hiding. For a brief moment, the ruthless kingpin seems almost human. But the interviewer's next question cuts deeper. They bring up rumors that the US government wants him dead, not captured. El Chapo's response is measured, but there's an edge now, a hint of the danger beneath his controlled surface. As the questions intensify, his answers grow shorter, more guarded. The camera catches subtle changes, clenched jaws, narrowed eyes, tense shoulders. The calm is cracking, replaced by something darker. But the real breaking point comes when the interviewer asks El Chapo to define himself. The question is simple, but his answer reveals the internal conflict. He insists he's not looking for problems, that he's just a family man forced into this life. But the tension in his voice tells another story.
¿Cómo lo definiría? Bueno, si yo lo conociera, en este caso, pues, con respeto y de mi parte diría que es una persona que...
By the end, El Chapo's facade is damaged, but not destroyed. He maintains his composure, but the cracks are visible. The kingpin who once controlled billions now struggles to control his own story. But the tension doesn't end here. If you thought El Chapo's carefully managed anger was intense, wait until you see what happens when a cartel leader faces a journalist who won't back down.
A very powerful organization, powerful with lots of money and lots of...
March 2023, deep inside a cartel stronghold in Jalisco, a reporter stands face to face with Double R, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Armed guards surround them, tension thick in the air. This wasn't just any interview. It was a high-stakes confrontation with one of Mexico's most feared crime bosses. Double R isn't just a name. He's the man behind CJ&G's ruthless reputation, a cartel known for advanced weaponry and brutal tactics. At just 38 years old, he commands respect and terror across the region. The interview starts calmly, but is charged. The cartel leader displays a grenade launcher like a trophy, weaponry that looks more at home on a battlefield than in a rural compound. And it's not just grenades. Drones buzz overhead, a sign of modern warfare in cartel hands.
Weapon here.
It's a 40mm grenade launcher. This is modern warfare. We use war technologies. We use drones.
And the reporter presses hard. Why does CJ&G have such a brutal reputation? Double R doesn't flinch. He admits violence is part of their work, but with a cynical twist.
We are all bad guys. That's the reality. Why? Because at the end of the day, the work is the same. We kill like all the others.
What really sets this interview apart is when Double R gave a chilling justification, at which point he almost lost it completely.
The Jalisco cartel is a cartel that doesn't kidnap. The Jalisco cartel doesn't church quotas. The Jalisco cartel doesn't extort.
But then, the conversation shifts to the avocado trade. Jalisco's green gold. Rival cartels like the Viagras had terrorized farmers with brutal extortion and murder. Double R claims CJ&G took over to protect the industry. But the truth lies in control and profit. And then finally came the moment that shocked the interviewer and viewers. Staring directly into the camera, Double R's tone turns icy. He issues a raw, unfiltered threat.
Anyone, except for those that deserve it, If you deserve it, you better hide, because we will come with all we got.
No room for misunderstanding, no mercy shown. His words hit like a bullet. Beyond bravado, this was a warning. The interview exposed not just power, but the violent mindset that fuels CJNG's grip on the region. What happened next? The interview went viral, rattling nerves across Mexico. Many saw Double R's cold stare as proof of the cartel's ruthless hold. Yet, the leader remained unshaken. His message clear: disrespect isn't tolerated, and crossing CJNG comes with deadly consequences. This wasn't just an interview, it was a power play, a message from the top of one of the most dangerous crime dynasties. But if you think that confrontation was intense, wait until you see what happens when another interviewer sits face to face with a Cartel Sicario locked behind bars.
About, when was the first time for you, and how did it happen?
I was going on 13 years old the first time I took a life. It's just one day, got him.
A former cartel hitman, Rosalio Retta, locked behind bars, sits face to face with Jason Fox. The clock rewinds to when he was barely 13 years old, the age most kids are in middle school, when he took his first life. This isn't just an interview, it's a glimpse into a world where innocence is stolen and violence is the only language. This man was recruited young, forced into a brutal war zone that was anything but normal. Unlike soldiers trained to face combat with discipline and purpose, his training was a nightmare, using real people as targets, rival cartel members treated like cattle. No paper targets here, just flesh and blood, and death hanging in the air.
He pulled out a handgun, told me to kill that person, the one kneeling in front of him. And I just shot him.
Lured in under the promise of protection and power.
And he said he was putting me on his payroll. He said, don't worry about it. Go back to school, to wherever you're doing, and I'm gonna call you when I need you.
This was a chilling game of control and survival, a forced double life that blurred the lines between boy and killer. Jason Fox, himself no stranger to violence in his military past, tries to draw the contrast. But this interviewee's experience is raw, unfiltered. The cartel's merciless methods pushed him beyond any conventional understanding of warfare. He explains how training wasn't with inanimate objects, but with real people.
But you don't practice with paper targets. It's a constant war zone. You practice with live targets.
Hostages and rivals alike, thrown into deadly survival games where freedom was a prize few claimed. Scores of enemies were lined up, shot at like cattle in a slaughterhouse. The scale and cruelty are almost unimaginable. Then came the torture, which was routine and mechanical. Pulling teeth, cutting fingers, the kind of acts that are meant to break people, but instead became just another part of his daily reality. When Jason Fox asks if he enjoyed what he did, the hitman's response is chilling. No pleasure, but an undeniable drive to be the best at his brutal craft, a survival mechanism in a merciless world. That moment pierced the room, a stark reminder of how normalized violence had become for him. This was the point where the interview shifted. The calm, composed man behind bars wasn't just recounting horror, he was confronting his own humanity, or what was left of it. The interview was more than a conversation. It was a raw, unsettling confrontation, where disrespect or probing questions could have led to a dangerous breakdown. But here, the ex-hitman maintained control, showing just how deeply the cartel had shaped him. Jason Fox's bold move to sit down with this man exposed the grim reality of cartel life, a world where the line between victim and villain is sometimes razor thin, and where every word can trigger an unpredictable reaction. But if you think this intensity is all there is, wait until you see what happens when another ruthless cartel sicario faces an interviewer who pushes too far.
Could you tell us how many people you killed? about 36 people.
Martinez doesn't look like a killer. He carries himself with the calm of any grandfather, not a contract killer who admits to 36 murders. Born in Mexico, raised in California's fields, Martinez grew up working alongside his family as migrant laborers. He lived between two worlds, valued by his family, hated by those who saw him as an outsider. His entry into violence wasn't instant. Martinez's childhood was marked by discrimination and early exposure to crime from a stepfather involved in illegal activities. Growing up, he faced constant bullying for his accent and background.
Back when I was about 11 years old.
What do you remember about that?
I remember that people were making fun of me because I didn't know how to speak English. So I told my mom I was going to kick this kid ass because he said I should go back to Mexico.
The turning point came with his sister's murder in 1978, a trauma that changed him forever.
I was a father by the time I was 16. At that time, that's when my sister got murdered.
That pain twisted into a philosophy Martinez would follow for decades: violence as retribution and survival. He found himself drawn to the criminal underworld, where his willingness to kill made him valuable. Martinez became known as El Mano Negra, the Black Hand, a favored enforcer for various drug cartels. Despite this brutal world, Martinez built a family. He speaks tenderly about his granddaughter, sharing stories about her birthday parties at Toys R Us. This disturbing duality, loving family man by day, ruthless killer by night, defined Martinez's double life. His professional violence was methodical. Martinez recalls threatening debtors with their families' lives and collecting money for drug cartels.
My money, in 30 minutes, I'm gonna call my friend that is outside your house and he's gonna shoot your family.
You got your money?
I got my money, okay.
His tactics were effective because he carried out threats without hesitation. In one chilling example, he calmly describes killing a man for repeatedly disrespecting him, a minor slight that turned deadly. Martinez's code was simple. Disrespect was intolerable. In his world, a warning was final. If ignored, violence followed. He didn't see himself as a cold-blooded killer, but as someone enforcing his rules in a ruthless environment. But even El Mano Negra had moments of reflection. In rare instances, Martinez expressed regret, not for his victims, but for their families. He talks about understanding a mother's pain, connecting it to his own family's suffering. His contempt for authority ran deep. Despite a brother in law enforcement, Martinez saw himself as the family's black sheep. His criminal life was partly rebellion against a world that rejected him. Martinez's arrest didn't change him. In interrogation, he was defiant, unafraid of consequences, unrepentant. He mocked death row and showed no fear of the electric chair. But his most shocking moment came during the interview itself. After calmly confessing to 36 murders, Martinez delivered the line that left the interviewer stunned.
Thief, always a thief. You say once a gangster, always a gangster. Once a killer, always a killer. See.
No hope of redemption, just the cold reality of a man who embraced his violent identity. Martinez's story isn't just about violence, it's about the creation of a killer, how childhood trauma, discrimination, and loss can forge someone into a weapon. His dual life as family man and contract killer reveals the terrifying complexity of human nature.